Mitchell, bring us home.
My name is Mitchell Strauss. My grandmother's name was Mitchell. She was named for her uncle, and they are from Texas. That's my usual opening remark. My number two opening remark, which some people find humorous, is that my name is Mitchell Strauss. I'm from the U.S. government, and I'm here to help. Now, today I'd like to talk about what an extraordinary honor it is to know Skylar and Claude, and to be amongst a lot of friends. These are all friends, some of whom I haven't exactly met, including Michael Fairbanks, who's now a friend for life since I didn't know what he did or how well he did it. But we're all out here on a Saturday, on a gorgeous day, talking about how to make life better in South Africa and other African countries. And I like to say that I don't know how I got to be in this place today, but I think it had something to do with a Quaker or a friend's education, where I really believe in service. I believe that there's that of God in every man. I believe that everybody's created equal, and I am here to help. And OPIC was a part of my journey that I was looking for a job. I was a banker. I liked being a banker because in my prior life's journey, I did a lot of things. I raised horses. I worked in a picture frame manufacturer. I worked on a plastics manufacturing line. I made those horns people blow in at football games. So I saw a lot of businesses. I used to go to work with my father, and he made little engraved things, little teeny ones that were sort of the beginning of what's now micro technology and cell phones. Mobile technology connects people. So I became a banker, and then someone said I ought to look at a job at the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, which was a government agency. And I kind of liked the overseas part, and I didn't really, the private was okay. It was better than government, right? Private. I liked the word investment, and the part about corporation was kind of funny because it's a government agency, so where'd they get corporation in the name? So I went there about 15 years ago, and we did project finance, greenfield project finance, and OPIC at the time did a lot of power plants. And power plants are very important to economies. Cement factories are important. A lot of these things are really important. And I used to walk the halls, and look at pictures on the wall, and there would be a geothermal plant, and then there'd be a guy putting an ice cream cone out of his little van and handing it to a little girl. And I would say, I'd much rather work on that little loan than on that big loan. And people would say to me, well, you just don't understand, which when you have a name like Mitchell, you get that a lot. You just don't understand, and that just made me want to work harder. So along the journey, we started doing some other things at OPIC. We started lending to companies in the United States sometimes instead of a joint venture in the foreign country, because if the purpose of the loan was the same, the lawyers in the room will appreciate, it's a lot easier, cheaper, and quicker to lend the money in the United States for the purpose of the project, and just that's a better idea. We started doing microfinance. I was reading some stuff about microfinance about 10 years ago and said, wow, this looks really highly developmental. Why don't we take a look at this? And we started working with Axion. We started lending money for not-for-profits. And people would say, but they don't make profit. Now, look, these guys look okay today, some of these not-for-profit people. I think they pay their bills, they pay their employees. So we started doing that, and that worked out well. We started doing some pretty touchy-feely, bell-ringing things. With microfinance and NGOs, we continued down the journey, and I personally like to work on 3 and 4 bell-ringing transactions, and one of my favorite bells is women. Women-owned businesses. And one of my favorite bells is pretty much any country in Africa. So we started doing things like that. And OPIC can support projects with financing, and we can support investors with political risk insurance. We use the financing to put into transactions, direct loans, and we also use the financing to leverage funds. We try to be prudent with your taxpayer money, for those of you who are U.S. We've consistently returned money to the United States Treasury for over 30 years, which I think is the only lending agency in the government that does that. But I think the most important thing is that we really try to help, to be developmental. With our equity funds that we support, many are in Africa. We're supporting one called Abraj right now, which invests in northern Africa. About 3 years ago, we decided it would be a good idea to add to our stable of fund types a social fund, a new group of investors, a new group of projects, a new set of return expectations, because we were starting to see how many collaborative efforts could be achieved if you were to marry some grant money, which I call chocolate sauce in a pitcher, with some first loss money, which I call a raspberry layer. This raspberry layer is what you really need to put some of these transactions together. A mezzanine layer, which I call chocolate because it's kind of really interesting, and then some vanilla senior debt on top to create deals that get done. Especially in Africa, we have challenges. I guess I'm really blessed. I'm up to about 7 countries, and I never would have had that opportunity without working for a government agency. So what we are doing and what I focus on, because a couple of you asked, we're trying to find the most developmental projects that we can support. We're a teeny agency. We have 200 people. But one of the most extraordinary things about this crowd, the last panel, and OPIC, is that there are 2 women that run OPIC, Elizabeth Littlefield, who worked at CGAP for many years and spent an awful lot of time in the microfinance industry and in this social capital industry, and Mimi Ala Maehu, who used to be at the African Development Bank. So here I am, a 60-year-old woman on a Saturday, looking forward to your questions. Thank you.